there's a 24-hour claims line that BP has established, but the complaint a lot of fishermen, especially in the Louisiana, Mississippi side, saying they're not getting compensated for what they would normally be making. And so there are, of course, there's going to be red tape involved and a lot, but I think BP is doing what's right. And, I was going to ask you that. How long will it take for this region to recover? I know you said the oil spill previously, it lasted 300 days, but how long do you foresee things getting back to normal? They got to stop it first.
Well, a lot, Brett, will depend on oceanic and atmospheric considerations. We're in the height of summer. We're getting closer to our hurricane season, and, we've all been through this before. It would be the worst thing to have a hurricane coming on top of all of this. But natural, with the sea surface temperatures as they are in the summer, there's going to be natural evaporation, there's going to be natural dissipation. The higher temperature is going to accelerate microbial action. So while it's an unknown, you can't exactly say, well, we're going to be free by the end of the year of the oil. You know that it's going to be happening naturally as fast as can possibly happen. So we just have to hope for the best. It's something really outside of our control. Also, currents will carry the oil into the Gulf Stream eventually, and it'll get out into the Atlantic. Into the Atlantic. You have to remember that coming up in the south of the Gulf of Mexico through the Yucatan Channel is a huge volume of fresh seawater coming in, and that's going to definitely assist in replenishment of new water into the Gulf of Mexico over a period of time.
And that's huge. And the wildlife guy, your biggest platform is conservation. I mean, everybody knows about your art. Everybody knows that you're a scientist and you're internationally known for all these. But I think you would probably agree that your platform now is conservation and
absolutely,
and the sustaining of our resources. That's what we talked about last year.
Right.
We see on the news about the birds, the sea turtles, but a lot of your paintings, the pelagic fish. Let's talk about that a little bit. The migratory fish is what pelagic means, and the marlin, the dolphin, the tuna, the wahoo, those kind of fish, outside of where they are now, will they come back to where they normally have been coming?
As adults, they can all avoid the situation by just swimming away, down and away. The juvenile stages now and larval stages are, of course, found near the surface, and so they are going to be directly impacted by the oil. One particular species, Brett, is the Atlantic bluefin tuna, which, of course, has its spawning ground quite close to where the spill was. We don't know what effect this spill is going to have on the recruitment of juveniles for this year's fishery. It could be very serious. This species is already seriously overfished. Let alone talking about other favorites, the red snapper, the redfish, the speckled sea trout, bottom fish like flounders. All of these animals live their juvenile and larval stages up near the surface and will be impacted. So we have no idea, which is why I'm putting together this program through the use of the artwork, 2 designs on T-shirts, 1 as a poster, to raise money to go to the My Ocean Foundation, which we'll then disseminate to all the people who are currently doing the work, so we get these answers, like University of South Alabama, like University of Florida, like Moot Marine Lab, people who are actively engaged in marine research here in the Gulf, so that we can better our understanding and try and learn some of the effects of the oil on all these different species, because we just don't know. All that we know is that it's detrimental.
Absolutely, and it's been tough for everybody involved.
We don't know if redfish bioaccumulate oil through the food that they eat. We don't know if speckled trout do that. We don't know if flounders do that. We don't know what red snappers do, and how will it affect the fishermen, how will it affect the oysters. Bearing in mind that the oyster beds that are affected are in a fairly limited part of the coast. Sure. Anything west of the spill is going to be safe. So the supply of the seafood theoretically is not affected. And as you know, most of the seafood that we eat in America is imported from foreign countries anyway. Mm-hmm. So I don't see interruptions there, but interruptions in recreational fishing. Look at all these boats there that are tied up.
And have been for over 4 months now.
Boating, coastal boating, recreational boating, it's all going to get affected. But there is an end to this. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. It's going to come back.
And I know that's good news. A lot of people are glad to hear you say that. Researchers from the University of Southern Miss and University of Georgia have discovered large underwater plumes of oil that have been drifting in the Gulf, and a lot of controversy surrounding that. There are a lot of debates. BP says no, there's not. They say yes. We've actually gone out there and seen it. They don't know to what extent. I think they said that they found a plume that wasn't associated with this particular oil spill, but to me, that's more of effect that we don't know anything about than what we can see on the surface.
And I can't really comment because most people know oil is lighter than water and goes straight to the surface. And why it should be there in suspension in whatever form it's in, beats me. So you'd have to ask the experts on that one.
A lot of controversy surrounding that. You were recently quoted in your inaugural issue of your magazine, which, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll be talking about that here in just a little bit. But you said that it is your strong belief that if the consuming public were better educated about many issues facing marine resources, then we would be halfway to seeing meaningful changes in the way we exploit ocean food sources. Do you think this oil spill is the silver lining in this statement that you made?
It's going to bring a lot more awareness to our use of marine resources, whether it's just being down at the beach or boating, but especially our consumption of seafood is going to be. We're going to make better choices, I think, as a result of this. It is our demand, obviously, that drives the exploitation of seafood by commercial fishing interests to supply our demand, and we just got to think more about we're actually catching wild animals and consuming them on a major basis. I mean, fish farming is one answer to it, but it has inherent other problems, environmental problems that we still haven't considered fully the impacts of all of that. So in the long term, people are going to have to think, well, take salmon or halibut or tunas or fish that are fairly well regulated and concentrate on those rather than the fish that are really severely exploited, and change our eating habits. It's going to be a long process, though. Another aspect of that, of course, is the cultural impacts that other countries have. For example, sharks, consumption of sharks and shark fins. Nobody here eats shark fins. Maybe Oriental people living
mostly over in the Asian
people living in the US do, but you have to deal with the cultural demand, and you can't. It's hard to change people's way of thinking.
Whaling, for example, shark. Well, the shark problem, whaling. Do you think that more and more people, with all the TV shows on now, on the research, and I'm seeing a lot more of those, do you think that overall people are making a concerted effort to be more aware?
Definitely we're making progress. There's no doubt about it. The amount of pressure being put on countries like Norway and Japan, who still do whaling on a regular basis, is huge. And you can watch these whale wars movies.
Exactly.
I mean, what a great thing that guy is doing.
Absolutely.
And, even though some of his methods may be,
radical.
Very radical.
He's passionate about it.
Well, so am I. So are most of the fishermen who interact with the coast here are passionate. But he's sending a very strong message. So, and to the recreational fishermen who also have huge responsibility, I always say to them, be a responsible fisherman. Preserve your environment, or conserve your environment, and conserve the species. Fish responsibly, catch and release responsibly. Observe all your local laws and limits. Your catch limits, your close seasons, your spawning seasons, and all the rest of it.
There's a reason there.
There's a reason they're there, and be a responsible person. It's very easy to do. I love fishing. I love to eat fish. I eat fish. Some fish that I catch, I'm not a tree hugger, but it's all about taking one and not 10.
That's exactly right.
So I just fished up in Alaska a couple of weeks ago, and we're catching some lovely king salmon there. The rules were 1 a day per angler, and you fill out your form, and you release all the rest. 1 halibut a day, you keep him and release all the rest. And we observe that and are glad to do it, because that's plenty of food right there.
Plenty to go around.
You don't need to kill any more.
Exactly.